Are you ready to launch? Today we learn how to use a live launch strategy, how to use Facebook challenges to increase your trust and to explode your sales. It's time to monetize that passion. It's time to figure out how to get your coaching business, your course, or your product or service out into the world in front of your audience in an engaging and very authentic way. All right, let's go. Welcome back to the Multi-Passionate Mompreneur podcast, where we choose to focus our energy, embrace our strengths, and move toward the compelled businesswomen we were meant to be. It's time to free ourselves from the chaos and the constant stream of ideas and build a life of impact and joy that honors our hard stuff, that makes meaning of our losses, and that helps us to make an impact in the world. It's time to finally take our power back and gain the follow-through that we've been desperately needing, while also learning to leave the swirl behind. I'm Angel McElhaney, motherless daughter, self-discovery junkie, and not so master juggler of my crazy crew. And I believe you can have it all. So put down that to-do list, grab that coffee, and let's get to work, one day at a time, together. Welcome back to this episode of Multi-Passionate Mompreneur. Today we are going to talk with Jess Winnett, and she is a mom of 4. She's a wife, and she's also a business coach to mompreneurs, and she helps them launch and build minimalistic, profitable online businesses. She has a big passion for seeing women step fully into their passion and purpose without sacrificing what matters most to them. And Jess, you are actually a homeschool mom too, which I am. This is our first week. So
yeah.
Wish me luck as I do all the hats. Let's just keep adding them, you know? Exactly. I feel like it'll settle in, and I feel like sometimes I do better when it's a little crazy. I don't know if that's a good thing or bad, but welcome to the show.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
I'm super excited to kind of hear how you manage all of this, but specifically how you built this company and how you build an online presence. So maybe just tell us a little bit about your story and we'll get started.
Absolutely. So I've always kind of, been an entrepreneur, a wantrepreneur, I should say. I was raised by an entrepreneur. My grandpa was an entrepreneur. So I come from like kind of this long line of entrepreneurs who really, I've always had kind of this knack and obsession with the marketing piece of it. And so about 5 years ago, I had an existing offline business that I was trying to move online for more exposure. The way I was growing my business was I was going to the park and the library at the time and dragging my 3 young kids under 4 all over town, trying to drum up business and get new clients. And it was just exhausting. And so I kind of came into the online space really coming into the scene of live video as being kind of my introduction, and really not wanting to start another online business, but just grow my existing offline business and use that as a vehicle to get in front of more people and grow my contact list and get more clients and all the things. And so really from that though, I started this accidental online business where I had been on live video, which was Periscope back then, and then it became Facebook Live. And business owners, which were kind of my people, I just gravitated towards other business owners, other online entrepreneurs who were kind of doing the same thing as I was. But I had this kind of knack for the tech and for the marketing piece of using live video for your business. And so that's when people started coming to me more for live video. Well, that turned into, it ended up being kind of one-on-one coaching, and then turned into this course that I created. But then I had this problem, right? I had these people that were watching pretty consistently, but I needed to figure out a way to kind of change things up and spice things up and use kind of this like fun out of the box way of creating special content around my course. Like, how can I create buzz and excitement? And so back then, I mean, they're kind of bigger now, but back then online challenges were really kind of coming on the scene. And I had another buddy in the online space that was doing these and having a lot of success with them. And he was doing these 5-day challenges. And so I thought, well, I'm just going to do that. I'm going to do it on my live, my live channel, on my Periscope channel. And I'm just going to do this 5-day challenge and drive the traffic basically from that challenge into my new course, which was on live video, using live video for your business. And through that one challenge in 5 days, I made over $13,000 as like a stay-at-home mom with 3 little kids at my feet. like working in like the little nooks and crannies in like, nap time and in the early morning. And like, literally it was like, that was game-changing money for our family. We were living in a 2-bedroom townhome at the time with 3 little kids all in the same room. And really for us, it was a big pivotal moment for me. And what it showed me was, yes, the online space is powerful, but this model of being able to over deliver and give a ton of value in a condensed period of time for people, for your audience, was a massive shift for me in my business, in my life. And so from there, that was 4.5 years ago. It was in April of 2016. And so since then, I've just continued with this model of challenges. And I've kind of tried different things, right? I've tried like, maybe doing it on my page and doing all the live videos on my page, or maybe, having it hosted somewhere else, maybe like, pre-recording them and then putting them on YouTube and send them out, via email. I've tried like kind of all different things to see which one really hit. And for me, what I found the best, really most effective way to really build community and impact and touch your, really influence your audience in a really special way during that challenge was inside of Facebook groups. And so that's where I really transitioned and have predominantly now done, really most of my challenges, especially in the last few years, inside of Facebook groups. And so I moved away from doing them in a public forum and moved them into kind of this private community forum. And since then, it's just really exploded for me. I have had incredible success with them. I've had, students that have had amazing success with them. And just using really this challenge format to create this environment of community, this special, like, it's not just content creation, but it's this tailored content creation that usually leads into other offers, whether it's coaching or programs or service-based businesses. But it's what I love about it is it's super intuitive. You can adapt and change it around your audience. You can really get their feedback and change and give what they want. So it literally feels like you're in their head. And so when there's a transition to the sale, when you're actually moving into, positioning and giving your offer, it's just a really smooth transition, and it doesn't feel salesy or spammy or yucky. It's just super smooth, and I love it.
I think there's this piece that seems to happen because you have this container where it's almost like there's all this market research right at your fingertips, because they're literally telling you what they need, and you're in it with them. So you're kind of seeing like, oh, this is exactly what she needs, so let me make sure I give it to them. And I think that takes away the salesy thing. Don't you feel like a lot of people have trouble selling their thing, or maybe they even like start talking about it, but then they're like, oh, I sell, what I mean? And then it like drifts off because it does feel sometimes uncomfortable if you feel like you are just selling, but if you feel like you're serving, and I definitely think that your challenges do that. So I'm excited to hear, like, so what is the model of like, okay, I love that idea. I want to make 13,000 in 5 days, and I want to be able to monetize my coaching or my course or whatever, all the things, especially in the nooks and crannies of time. How, especially right now, like a lot of people are doing virtual or they're homeschooling, but you've been doing that this whole time. So any tips on exactly what to do to get started to get to that point?
Yeah, I think the first piece of that is really understanding, your who, your person, your ideal customer or client. I think sometimes we as entrepreneurs are always afraid about niching down, but with challenges, it's even more vital that you niche down. So it's more vital that you figure out exactly who this challenge is for. So, I mean, there's even been challenges where my who has changed from challenge to challenge. So I really get clear on that piece first, like, who is this challenge for? And, every challenge is inside what I do pop-up Facebook groups. So every single challenge will have its own Facebook group, unless I'm running the same challenge over and over again, which is a great idea if you're really trying to nail down and figure out your messaging, right? So what I love about challenges, and you actually mentioned it, is this, really this, I mean, they're thrown into this petri dish of market research. I mean, you really do get the feedback in real time from your people. And so, even if you're not fully clear on that and who your person is, you'll get even more clear just going through your first challenge. So that first step is figuring out who it's for, and then what result they're going to get from this challenge. So again, this comes down to niching down and figuring out what the big promise is from that challenge. So people really do struggle with that piece, because we go, well, I can do this and I can help them with this and I can, get them this result. And what about this? But the thing with challenges is that you want to get people quick results and quick wins. So every single day of my challenge, and my challenges run anywhere from, usually my sweet spot is 5 to 7 days. I usually do 5 or 7 day challenges. However, I have done 1 day workshops. I actually, just created an entire course just doing a live workshop and using those recordings to create the course, which is great for people who actually want to create their course using challenges. But for me, I find that, if I'm spending this time with people over the 5 days within that challenge, I want to make sure that, I'm over delivering every single day, but I'm also getting them quick wins. So I don't want, to overwhelm them. I don't want it to be too much every single day of the challenge, but I also every single day want to give them something to do, whether it's a call to action, an assignment, maybe it's a PDF that they're filling out. Maybe it's just telling them to go live. A lot of the time, my ideal audience is a mom who's an entrepreneur. Maybe she's got a business or she wants to start a business online. And a lot of what we struggle with is kind of these self-limiting beliefs, right? And so I know a lot for her is just getting out of her comfort zone and being cheered on and celebrated by other women who are just like her. And so what that does when you're giving these assignments, it kind of is twofold. Yes, they are getting the quick wins, but it also does massive amounts for community building. So these women are cheering each other on. They're commenting on each other's, posts and videos. They're going live into the group, which is something some of them have never done before. They've never gone live even on their own public pages or own private Facebook groups, much less into somebody else's. And so it's really this beautiful thing that happens where you come into this group kind of like, summer camp, complete strangers on the first day. And then by the end, you're like crying, don't want to leave each other as like best friends, so it's a really cool thing.
Well, and I love a lot of the things you just said, but I feel like engagement and that like trust building factor that happens with them going live, because you're right, people are so fearful of that. And basically, even in having them go live, you have literally proven to them like you were afraid of something and you did it and you killed it. You did great. You know what I mean? You survived it.
Right.
So I think that's super powerful. So if they want to, should they have a product already? Or it sounds like no matter what, literally the process of doing it is going to make it successful in at least the terms of market research and building connections and serving. But how can they make it to where it's a successful challenge?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so I actually teach challenges really to 2 different camps of people. So number 1 is people who have an existing product or service that they're driving traffic to. So the biggest problem that I hear people have is they feel like the internet's best kept secret, their digital product or their coaching or their YouTube channel or their podcast or whatever it is they poured their heart and soul into has now sat on the proverbial digital shelf and it's collecting dust, right? They poured their heart and soul into this thing. They know they can impact and help people, but now they can't get enough eyeballs on it. And so challenges are beautiful for that because they really do build know, like, and trust factor very quickly with your audience. It creates massive connection like we've already talked about. And so you can drive that traffic. It's very low barrier of entry too. So people feel non-threatened. They don't feel like they're going to be pitched to for 5 or 7 days. It's just real low barrier of entry and non-threatening. And so that is one, group of people that really are using challenges, to this model to drive traffic to their existing offers. The second group of people is people who actually want to create or, this model or use this model or format to create their first thing. Right. So actually, this is something that I've been recently doing in the last 6 months with my students is really taking them through a process of actually using challenges to create your course. So the thing that you've been having in your head for forever, right? You're trying to figure out, did I get all the pieces? Did I teach it in the right order? Do I have all the lessons, planned out? And is this clear? Is this going to make sense to my people? And what happens is when we go to create our course, oftentimes we don't have real life, belly to belly teaching of our framework, right? And so we're kind of guessing. And so what this does is it puts you in a room. It puts you almost in a, what large corporations do is they put them into a focus group room, right? And test out the product, test out the thing on them. And then you can intuitively change or add lessons or add things as you go along based on the feedback that you're getting from those people. And then you can sell then the recordings to that entire week of the challenge to them, which is really fun because it's something that can work in either model or either situation. But for me, someone who's just starting out and it's like, I don't know how I'm going to go about creating this. It's a great kind of, throw you in there, get it done in a short amount of time rather than spending weeks or months in creation mode.
So in order to do that, because I did want to touch on that, because you're the only challenge I've ever seen to where you will offer basically the coaching add-on. And so, which I think is super smart because they have that that really one-on-one help, even though it's a group setting, but to where you can kind of hear them out and build trust, and getting actual help towards their business. And then you also sell the recordings, and it's all at that low price to where they're feeling like they can still get, like they don't feel like they cannot afford it. Do you know what I mean? So,
right.
So what do you use for that? Just like tech. So tech can sometimes be, for my audience, a little bit of a barrier. So let's kind of make it super simple. So for the person who wants to maybe try that, are you using Zoom, or what is it that you're doing so that you can record the recordings to either use it in their course or to sell it for them?
Yeah, great question. So I use a lot of mine have just been Zoom and just streaming that directly into the Facebook group, which I love because it's like, for the pro version, it's like $15 a month for Zoom in order to do that. And it records at the same time. You can do that coaching aspect. So what you were talking about is I usually do all of my challenge lessons or trainings in the morning, usually around mid-morning my time, which is central. And then I have an evening session where I do kind of this group coaching feel. And that upsell inside of my funnel is only $27. So they're getting the recordings for the entire week of the challenge on top of group coaching with me for 5 or 7 days. And so, like you said, it's a no-brainer purchase. It's something that they can make very quickly. Even a cold lead, someone who I may be driving some Facebook ads to, I've had a lot of success on them buying that upsell, right? So they opt in with name and email address, and then the next page is literally me saying, hey, do you want to get the recordings and these group sessions in the evening? And like you said, it becomes something where, they're like, oh yeah, no sweat. Anybody can afford that. And so even people who don't go on with me to maybe take my, higher cost offer, they're still getting a ton of value and access to me. And they're feeling like, they're getting more out of the experience than just a number within the challenge group, So, but yeah, the tech piece of that, what I love about challenges is I literally tell people you can start and have a challenge with a Facebook group in your phone. You don't need all of the, fancy funnels. You don't even need Zoom if you don't want to. Facebook will actually, you can download, those lessons after they're created. My very first course, actually, kind of funny thing, but my very first course was filmed entirely on my cell phone. So, I think sometimes we underestimate the value of just, creating the thing and being willing to suck at first,
Yeah,
and
let it be messy.
Yeah, let it be messy. Let it, get it out there, because most likely you're going to change it and you're going to improve upon it and you're going to refilm things anyway. And so I would rather mess it up, but get my message across and help and impact people rather than never make it happen. And then, that's the beauty of challenges, is it really just throws you in there. So it gets it done.
Yeah, for sure. And so when it comes to timing it, like should they, so say I have a product and I'm going to launch it, or even let's just say my course. So I'm going to be doing one, launching my course for October 1st is my deadline. So,
Awesome.
so would you do it? Are you, cause I did notice that like you do have some sort of strategy when it comes to when you start the pop-up group, whether you
Yeah.
should do it in your regular group or a pop-up group. I mean, you've said you've done multiple, but how do you discern on which one that they should do? And
Yeah.
then is there a certain time? I've noticed that you do a pre-challenge and then the giveaways. So like, is there a
Yep.
system that you have for like when you do certain things when it comes to that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, October 1st. So let's say your course is done and ready to be marketed on October 1st. What I would personally do is I would actually have a challenge leading up to the opening of that, right? So open doors to your brand new product that you just created. And so the way that I do my challenges is I'm running I'm usually running to cold traffic through paid ads. However, the same applies to a warm traffic on your page or channel or your podcast, whatever it is that you're driving traffic to this challenge. So I usually will put people into the group 5 to 7 days before the challenge starts. I usually like to start my challenges on a Thursday. And the reason that is because I don't want to lose momentum by the weekend. What I mean by that is I do not start on a Monday, because if I was doing a 5-day challenge, it means I'm ending my challenge on the weekend and I lose momentum. I want to carry that momentum even into my open cart. What I mean by that is, like, if I have my challenge starting on Thursday, I can go Thursday, Friday, Saturday, take a day off on Sunday, come back Monday, Tuesday for day 4 and 5, and then open up my cart and close it on that Friday. So my cart is closing on the Friday, not opening on a Friday. So I like that because it keeps momentum, keeps everyone engaged. People are still excited. They've had kind of a day of rest on Sunday to kind of catch up and, catch on assignments or catch up on the trainings. But the way that I would do it is if I had, say, a course that was launching on October 1st, I have that day 5 of my challenge be the day that I'm launching my course into the world. And so I would just a ton of content leading up to that for the challenge days, but pre-challenge is important too. So if you think about it, when you have, for my challenges, I have kind of these 3 portions like you talked about. I have a pre-challenge, I have during the challenge, and then I have post-challenge. All 3 are vital to the success of the challenge. And so pre-challenge is really those days where I'm revving up, I'm keeping them excited. I don't want them dropped into my group 5 days before the challenge and then they're just kind of hanging out and waiting. I'm doing pre-challenge trainings. I'm doing, giveaway announcements. I always do giveaways, a big grand prize giveaway, depending on my top contributors during the challenge. So I am, keeping engaged with them. I'm doing maybe a pre-challenge little, fun giveaway thing where the first people that go, live are getting that little group coaching session in the evenings, stuff like that. It just keeps people excited and engaged with me. I maybe do even a video on the schedule for the week and what to expect. And then we jump in for the, let's say 5-day challenge. Then I have day 5 is my kind of transition day where I do a little bit of teaching or training, but I really bring them on to share their takeaways. So that's what I love about Zoom and doing it on Zoom is that I can even drop that link into the group. They can jump on live with me and they can actually tell me their takeaways. What this is doing is it's creating a ton of social proof and I'm gaining testimonials right then and there live. And so I'm getting their takeaways. I'm getting what they got out of the challenge. And then I transition into my offer. And it's a smooth transition. It really is this thing of, hey guys, do we want to keep this party going kind of thing? And the answer is usually yes. And so I will then present my offer on day 5. For me, because I have an existing offer, like I'm taking them into a membership, or for you, if you were to take them into a program or a course or group coaching or one-on-one coaching, whatever it is, you have a but a few days where the cart is open. So you're going to open your cart on day 5, and then it's going to close 4 or 5 days later. I don't usually keep it open longer than that because it kind of drags on. So I usually will open it, let's say on a Tuesday, and close it on a Friday. And in that those post-challenge days, I might pop in for a bonus training. I might pop in for, the giveaways, the announcements. I'm popping in for Q&As and answering their questions about the program or whatever it is I'm selling them into. But the whole point is through the entire challenge, I'm keeping energy high. I'm engaging. I'm not just like, oh, here's my offer, and then I drop them, So that's kind of the bird's eye view of that. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, that totally does. And then, so that's with the pop-up group. And then do you think that that is better to do than in your regular group, or whenever you did it in a regular group, did you just delete them after, or how did you navigate that?
Yeah. So I always like the idea of a pop-up group. I just feel like it's almost like they have to voluntarily ask, to get in. So it's kind of like that first like psychological little barrier for them. Like, I am volunteering this. I'm volunteering my time. I'm committing. And you get a lot more engaged people when there's this feeling of like, I'm here for this, right? I have signed up for this. So even if you had an existing group, I would still have, in my opinion, I would still have a pop-up group for the challenge itself. You can keep it inside of your group. I just find that it's, you'll have people definitely that maybe didn't see the post, that didn't come over and register, that maybe just now see you're doing a challenge. And I have seen people that have done that inside of their existing groups, but I just always have done them inside of pop-up groups because I find that there's kind of that little bit of like, hey, this is this community we're creating for this 5 days. And then I can tell them, hey, this group is for the purpose of a challenge, and we're just here for the challenge, right? And that's why these videos are coming down after a certain time. That incentivizes them to buy the recordings and things like that. So for yours, if you were to do it inside of your group, you would take them down afterwards and give them a bunch of heads up on that. Like, hey, these are coming down, just letting you guys know so that they can purchase those if they like.
For sure. And then, so if they are worried that like people aren't going to come into the pop-up group and that they're doing all this work for like 2 people, I'm kind of being extreme there with the 2 people, but how can what are some things or tips that you have for them to make sure that they have people in there, or what should they do to almost like make sure it's a success so that they do feel like their time is warranted,
Absolutely. So filling your that Facebook group, that challenge group, is always a question I get asked for sure. And, I think that, we can look at some of these people that are having these challenges that are doing, a few hundred people, few thousand people, or, tens of thousands of people inside these groups. I've had, I had a student recently that she had a group with 35 people, and she had like a 30% closing ratio. So she actually got like 9 or 10 of them into her program. So you don't need a very large group in order to have success with it. So I want you to be okay with, like, if you don't have the numbers turn up like you thought, that's okay. But I also think this comes down to making sure that there is enough of a hook or enough of something that gives them, they're going to get some result for their extreme pain, right, that they want, that incentivizes them to come over into the group. And so that's one piece of it. The second piece of it is there's a lot of ways, warm market-wise, that you can fill your challenge. Number one, you can actually partner with somebody else, so you can leverage their list. Now, I wouldn't partner with somebody that doesn't have a list, right? So partner with somebody that maybe is in a complementary business, or that has something that maybe a missing piece for your who, and you guys can market to each other's lists, right? And so you're kind of getting that piece of it. The other way is obviously some buildup of Facebook Lives and really engaging inside of your group, letting them know if you already have an existing group, or on whatever platform you already are. Live video obviously is going to be really valuable in bringing people over into that group. And then the other way that you can do that is by, going into obviously building community in other people's groups, right? So, I would not go in and spam those groups. Please don't do that. But you can, build relationships in those groups, leave a lot of like content, value-based kind of posts. And that's kind of an organic way that you can, build up some friends. Make sure that those people are your actual who, though, and you're not kind of going off on the deep end over there. But my favorite obviously is Facebook ads, because I can place my thing right in front of those people. But I understand that, for me, I didn't have a large following. I didn't have any paid ads in the beginning. And I did that through getting onto other people's in their worlds, right? So back in the day when we were, doing live video, we would go on to other people's live videos and leave comments and engage. And that's how we got people to follow our channels. The other thing that I did was I also did interviews. And so I would have large influencers or people on my channel that I would just say, hey, I think that you could offer something great for my people. Would you be willing to come on to my, live show, and we could do an interview together, a lot like what you're doing right here on the podcast. And so these kind of things, what they do is, Angel, I'm going to share this out to my audience. And so it gives you exposure on your podcast. It's the same with leading up to a challenge. If you're going the route of time versus money, right? We either pay with time or money. So if you're going versus time, the area of time, then you're going to have to pay with some time, right? So you might have to, put in a little bit of effort to get on some shows or have some influencers onto your shows or partner with other people and kind of, go that route a little bit more rather than, the paid route. But in my opinion, I think that you can still run really successful challenges without giant groups. So just know that going in, that you don't have to have these really big challenge groups to have success with it.
I love that you said that your client, let's just go back because there's a lot of good there. So, but the fact that she only had 35 people in her group and she still was able to make it a success. I feel like people get so stuck on the amount of people in their groups or the amount of people in their list and things. And it's really not that, because if you don't have the right people in there and it's just filled with a lot of fillers, or you don't have that depth, it's really not something to gauge it on, because it's going to be more so the engagement and the connection and the interaction, So I think that was such a huge point, because really it is about, and they probably modeled it after you if they're your student. So, and your group was one of the most, your challenge rather, the most engaging ones that I've seen. So if you have any other tips before we end our interview, I feel like, how did you get so much people to engage?
Yeah, that's it. I think the biggest thing is that, people, and this just by building community, one of the things that I feel like has been on my life is just making people feel seen and heard, and I think that in a community where people sometimes feel like a fly on the wall, like they're just like they don't feel seen and heard online. People are so used to feeling invisible, like kind of this wallflower. And for me, I love the atmosphere of creating this environment where people can step out and try new things and be celebrated. And so it's kind of funny what happens is it usually only takes a few brave ones. And it's always like, I remember this one challenge, I was pushing them and introduce yourself, nothing. Like they were not stepping out and they were just stubborn, like not doing anything. And so I ended up I think that's actually when I came up with the challenge, the pre-challenge giveaway. Cause I was like, okay, maybe I can incentivize them with something. Right. So I incentivized them. I put that out there. And I remember it was only a few that got it going. And then by that end of day, it was 10 people had gone live. And then the next one was 15 people. And so I think that environment of it sometimes is this herd mentality where they start to just becomes contagious, and it becomes this, it really does become addicting to feel like I'm in a safe place with like-minded women that are cheering me on. They're not judging me. They're not, nasty. It's not these nasty groups, because to be honest with you, a lot of the groups that we see online on Facebook these days are just nasty. They're bitey. They're, it's just not really edifying. And so for me, it's always been this thing of how can I encourage people, right? So all of my giveaways, for example, are to my top contributors. So I tell them in the very beginning, I say, hey, if you're commenting on other people's posts, if you're, celebrating your sisters, if you are, going live yourself, if you're on live with me and commenting, that all tells Facebook. It's actually, Facebook actually gives it to me in the Facebook group as an algorithm. I can go and look at my top contributors, and that's based off of those things, off of their posts and off of their comments. And so it really does incentivize this engagement. And then it becomes this thing where people are super engaged. What I love about the pop-up group too, going back to that kind of in the engagement piece of it, is that if it's a group that's brand new, Facebook is going to put that into their feed more often. So the algorithm will favor a new group to that person versus an old group. And so I like that piece of it too, because those challengers are seeing the other challengers going live, and they're seeing my posts, and they're seeing all these other things going on. And it's like this buzz that it's like the light, attracts people to that area of the internet, that is positive and encouraging and a lot of energy, and it's high. And there's just this real fun environment inside of challenges for the time that we're together. And I use music, I use countdown timers. There's a lot that I do there as well, just to get people excited. I ask engaging questions. I tell them, hey, give me a 1 if you're, ready for today. Put in the fire emoji if you're ready to get going. Put in the comments how many kids you have. I also have giveaways live as they're live with me. One of my challenges one time, I was going live at 10 or 11 a.m. my time, Central. But in Australia, it was 2 a.m. And we had a person on with us live that was in Australia watching at 2 o'clock in the morning, a mom. I couldn't believe it. And so I ended up giving her an Amazon gift card because I was so blessed that she was on. But it was just so that kind of environment, it really does build. And I think that centers around the type of environment that you create. It's the energy that you bring. And for me, I always make sure I'm giving them my very best. If I'm live for an hour, I'm giving my full energy. I'm there, I'm engaged. I'm, high, and then it's just really fun to see what happens through the community piece of it too.
Well, and I do think there is that piece of you trusting them too, because a lot of groups right now, they have a lot of rules, or they will, not really trust people to go live, or maybe even, everything's kind of policed heavily. Not that obviously we don't want people to spam each other's groups, but there is kind of this trust factor that you're giving whenever you're saying, I want you to come and share this,
Yeah,
so
totally.
I think that's super powerful too. Well, I just want to thank you so much for coming on, because I know that this is something that everyone that's listening to this has been in a challenge for sure, or many. And I bet a lot of people haven't even finished some, or some they've seen, that you can see kind of the spectrum of this engagement or the transformation. Because if you don't get people to engage and do the work, then they're not going to have the win, and then they're not going to probably end up working with you. But ultimately they're not going to have their win, So it's you have this opportunity to really kind of give someone a little mini transformation before, so that they can add the belief. It's almost like borrowing the belief you have in them for a time until they believe it themselves. And I love that. So, all right. So where can we find you, and where do you hang out, so that we can watch all your live videos and join all your challenges and all the things?
I love it. I am mainly on Facebook. It's facebook.com/Jess Winnett. My name altogether .tv. And then I'm also at Jess_Winnett on Instagram. And those are kind of my 2 main hubs that I'm in. I'm not on TikTok or anything like the cool kids. But yeah, that's mainly where I am, is Facebook and Instagram. And yeah, that's where I hang out.
I love that. All right. And I am so grateful for you for coming on. And I just want to remind all of our listeners that you are capable, you are strong, and you can do the hard stuff. Wishing you joy and abundance, Angel. Hey Mama, before you go, does the idea of building an engaged community sound like something that you'd be interested in? Maybe you are hearing nothing but crickets from your audience when you have this call in your heart to serve her, but you just can't get her to answer. If you are ready to authentically connect and nurture your audience so that you can generate the leads that your business desperately needs, then definitely come on over to Multi-Passionate Mompreneur and shoot me a DM either on Facebook or on Instagram and get on my wait list. The Facebook Engagement Accelerator is going to help your engagement explode so that you can finally know what she needs. I'm so excited to see what you do with this. Check out the link in the show notes. And until then, I just want to remind you that you can do this one day at a time together. Let's go.